Hi everyone, welcome back to the middle of everything. As some of you might know, because I did post about it, this week is National Infertility Awareness Week. And unfortunately, that is something that is very close to me and Mike in our home and in our lives. We've spent the better part of 4 years, our entire marriage, dealing with infertility. Today I'm actually wearing my infertility inspired sweatshirt. I got it off of Etsy. It's got some little things on it, and the one thing it says here is even miracles take a little time. And I think that is very reminiscent of everything people who are dealing with infertility go through. So basically, I would just want to talk about our journey and how we got to the middle of this shitstorm of infertility. So I'm gonna kind of start from the beginning, and I did write this out so I didn't forget anything. So yeah. Anyway, so on May 13th, 2022, it was the beginning of the next chapter of our lives. One of the best days of my life. That's when Mike and I got married. We decided that since we got married in our 30s and had already been together for 6 years, that we would start trying for a baby right away. So we tried. We went on vacations. We enjoyed life for a year, all while in the back of our heads wondering why it just wasn't happening. So I decided it was time to do something about it. No more wondering why. Time for some answers and a plan. I contacted CNY Fertility in Albany and I got an appointment for a consultation. That felt really good to get the first step going. They decided that since I have PCOS but have regular cycles, and since my insurance covered it, we would try IUI first. IUI is just intrauterine insemination. So basically, they wash the sperm so you get the purest of the pure spermies, and they insert the catheter into the uterus. This can help with the sperm finding the egg. Also, it helps with timing. And because I was on a medication called letrozole, which helps your follicles grow, and then you do a trigger shot, it's easier for the timing. So the first one, we figured it might not work, and we were right. It didn't work. The second one, we were more hopeful. I had increased doses of the medications. I did my own trigger shot this time because of the way that the timing fell. They weren't going to be open. But again, it didn't work. So we'll try again. Third cycle, still didn't work. And then on the fourth cycle, the nurse didn't listen to me when I said we needed to schedule the appointment for earlier than she wanted to. She didn't listen, and we missed our window. But I had a feeling, and we did try naturally, but still nothing. And I needed a break. So this was in October of 2024. And in January, I had my consultation for IVF. So they decided that I would do mini IVF since I have PCOS. That means that I have a lot of eggs. I have a lot of follicles that grow. So this is a good thing and it's a bad thing. So the upside is that we retrieved 39 eggs in February of 2025. The downside was that not all of those eggs are good. Not all of them would turn into blastocysts or embryos. So out of those 39, we had 24 that fertilized, 20 that matured, and then we ended up having 5 that became blastocysts and were embryos. The other drawback is that I ended up having OHSS, which is ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. So I was in a lot of pain, and that meant that we couldn't do the transfer right away. and we had to freeze our embryos. So those M babies went on ice, and in March we did our first frozen embryo transfer, and this is March of 2025. And we were so hopeful. We thought that this was going to be it. We thought we're going to have a baby. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case. So we did another one in April. Again, it was unsuccessful. I took a couple of months off so I could get my mental health better and so I could lose some weight, hoping that would help. And I did. I lost 30 pounds. So we did another transfer. And guess what? I got a positive pregnancy test at home. I was so excited. I even made a secret baby registry. I thought this was going to be it. Well, it wasn't. A few days later, I went for my blood test, and my HCG level was only at a 13. Typically, they want it to be above 100. So 13 was just much too low for a viable pregnancy. And it was confirmed at my next appointment that the level was going down. My HCG was only a 6. So we tried again because they said it was a good thing that we got a positive and that we should try again right away since we just had that positive. So that's what we did. But again, the transfer failed and we were heartbroken yet again. We found out the day before we were going to Chicago for vacation. And Mike and I decided that it was best if we took some time off to enjoy the holidays, and I wanted to lose more weight and get some testing done. I finally had a consultation with a doctor after the 4th failed embryo transfer. And that is something that I want to kind of tell everybody that's going through this experience. If you're going to a clinic that really just their job is to get you pregnant and then they give you to somebody else, make sure that after your first or second even embryo transfer, if it does not work, that you talk to a doctor. So I finally got to speak to a doctor. She looked over everything and suggested some blood work. So we actually found something in my blood work, and it's a very microscopic gene mutation that barely affects anything. But what it does do is make my homocysteine levels extremely elevated. I think the number is something like, it should be between a 1 and 14, and mine is like 153. And this affects your ability to produce vitamins B12 and B6. It also affects your ability to produce melatonin. And it's funny because I've always had an awful time sleeping. And now you might be wondering, like, what does this have to do with anything? Well, there have been a lot of studies done where research was found that melatonin, B6, and B12 levels can greatly affect implantation success. So I'm starting a regimen of B6, B12, and melatonin to hopefully have a successful next transfer. And that is where we are in our journey right now. We're in the hopeful stage of our last embryo working. I've also lost another 50 pounds since our last transfer. Total since last year, I've lost 88 pounds now. And I'm really hoping that this next one will work. So those were the stats, and that was the path. But I haven't talked about everything that's happening in my head, in my heart, and in the world around me. Every day I was grieving. I didn't understand that what I was feeling was grief. I was just understanding it as a failure. My body was failing me, and I didn't know what to do about it. The diagnosis of unexplained infertility is absolute shit. It's confusing, it's invalidating, and it's unhelpful. I want a reason this isn't working. Even with the recent information from my blood work, there is no guarantee that this is the reason for the failed cycles. So I sit in this feeling all the time. And it wasn't until my stepmom passed away in July of 2025 that I realized that grief is what I had been feeling this whole time. The way I felt didn't change. I felt exactly the same way after every failed cycle that I felt when my stepmom passed away. So the feeling didn't change. It was just who or what I was grieving was changing. It sucked. It still sucks. I still every day feel like I lost 4 babies, and in a real sense I have. Our little icy M babies. And people often talk about seeing pregnancy announcements, baby showers, gender reveals all being triggering, and they are. I just skipped a baby shower and feel extremely guilty about it, but I couldn't do that to myself, and I shouldn't have to. It would just ruin my whole day and even maybe my whole week. But I think it's the things that people don't talk about as much are the triggers. The comments about, oh, this is birth control for you, when someone's kid is being feral. But honestly, I look at that kid being silly and wish I could feel that twinge of, oh my God, what did my kid just do? I actually want to be out in public and have someone look at me because my baby is crying, because that means I'm a mom. I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always taken care of everyone around me. It's just who I am. But honestly, in my previous relationships, I couldn't see having children with them, so I didn't really think of it much. When Mike and I were together for a while and I saw him with our nieces and nephews, that's when I knew it was in me all along. I just hadn't found the right person yet. But now I found my person, and all I want to do is be able to make him a dad. I know he'll be the best dad, the fun dad, the one that is always playing with them. I'll be the bad guy telling them to stop throwing the football in the living room, or that it's time to put the toys away and go to bed because we all have to get up early for school and work in the morning. But again, I'm okay being the bad cop if that means I'm a mom. So many women quietly suffer with infertility. Everyone looks at you with sadness. Some people say the wrong things, some say the right things, but mostly people just don't say anything at all. But I would rather someone not know what to say and just not say anything than say something so fucking rude and stupid that I never want to talk to them again. Also, don't get me started on infertility services not being covered on a lot of insurance plans. Because it is such a prevalent thing now. Every time I went in for an appointment, the waiting room at the fertility clinic was absolutely packed with women trying to get pregnant. Why is it not covered? Infertility services is healthcare. So someone tell me, why is it not covered? I worked for a health insurance company for 9 years. For 9 years, I worked at a company and I saw so many different plans. There was a plan that covered infertility services. They covered IVF. And I just think, why doesn't all insurance cover IVF? Why doesn't all insurance cover for you to have a baby, to put another person on their plan, to pay them more money in premiums? It really doesn't make sense to me. So if infertility is not impacting you directly, I understand that you could never understand this feeling. But I want you to think about taking the time and learning about what goes into this journey, learning about the medications that we have to take, going to your legislators, going to the government, whoever you can go to, and asking them that they cover these services, because so many women suffer. And a lot of women don't have the resources to be able to pay for those tests, for any of the procedures. And we're fortunate enough that we were able to afford our first round of IVF, all of our transfers, and even the testing. It's very expensive, but we made it work even while buying a house. But this is all that I have the capacity to talk about right now. So I'm going to end it here. But if you have your own story, Want to be a guest on the pod to talk about your experience or just want someone to talk to, please email me or message me. I love you all. And if you're in the middle of infertility, we will get through this together. We are 1 in 6, and we will beat the odds, and we will be moms.